Okay, hello, this is Mark, and I'm here to assemble a Prusa Mark III 3D printer kit that I got. This is Chapter 3, the X-axis assembly. And so I'm going to try to keep this video a little shorter than the last one since I'm not unboxing or explaining certain tasks. I took the liberty of inserting a couple of nuts in already because that was just a big time waster on the last video. So those are kind of done if they're in this part of the thing. So I'm gonna get right into this and get this X-axis assembly. Let me show you a picture of what we're gonna build. We're building this. It's the I think it's the left and right movement of the printer head across the table. So let's get to this. All right. So the first step says that I need these two pieces of plastic. I need the four linear bearings and the pulley, and then the screw for the pulley, and then the nut, like I just explained, is already in the bottom of that. So let's do that. Alrighty. So the first step is it says insert the bearings into the printed parts. There is a flanged end, so don't force it into that end. It's to keep the bearings in, but that's a capture. So the one end is smaller than the other. It says don't try that end. Let's see. It says the first pair of bearings should be in line with the top surface of both X ends. So I guess it goes from end to end. And the second pair of bearings should be seated on the rim closer to the lower surface on both X ends. And those I guess are inset slightly more is what they're saying, according to the picture that I'm looking at. So we will give that a try. Well, I see on one end they're flush, the other end they're inset a little bit. Probably because of the flange, I'm guessing. So, alright. Or not the flange. Says you can press the bearings against a flat surface for easier insertion. And it says place the bearings in a way that the inner balls of the second bearing are rotated 45 degrees compared to the first. This way you will achieve greater contact with the smooth rod. See the third picture for more details. So one bearing is going to go in, and then in the same tube, the second bearing is going to be rotated. The balls inside will be rotated a little bit so that more of that whole bearing assembly makes contact with the rod at a different location. Probably less likely to wear grooves into your rod, or just make the rod glide better too, I'm guessing. So let's give this a shot. So they're showing this, and they're showing this. So let's get a bearing. And it says it should go into this end. Let's see if it does. Yeah, this is the non-ridged end. So there it goes. So let me adjust the focus on this camera so that it's not always changing on you. Let's see, focus. So focus here. Okay. Alright, hopefully the focus won't be always changing to the video anymore. Alright, first bearing's in. Second bearing. Put that in like that. So down in the hole. And so these is they're saying, I think, align to the ends. We'll do that in the next step. Let's get all the bearings in. think I have to get that second bearing in more. Oh, I need to remember to turn the other bearing, so let's press this one out a little bit. I need to turn this. Then I'm looking down the barrel of the bearing. Probably can't see that very much. But I'm going to turn the instructions show to turn the ball, turn it so the balls are 45 to each other. So there. That's good. The first one gets pushed all the way, and then we're going to have to kind of wheedle the second one back using a tool. Alright, so I'm putting a gap down in that line. You can see the two bearings in there, that gap in between, so the one end of the bearing goes here and one end of the bearing is at the other end of the plastic. So, and then my alignment is correct on the balls. Then we'll double check what they said about the spacing here. The first pair of bearings, which is where the flange is, should be in line with the top surface on both X ends. Then the second pair of bearings should be should be to the lower surface on both X ends. I'm not sure what they're saying there, to the lower surface. Is there a lower surface? Okay, what they're saying is, so there's this end cap here. This 3D printed hole is slightly smaller than the bearings, and that prevents the bearing from flying out this end. And what they're basically saying is that this one should be flush, like that, against the plastic, and that this side should be kind of indented by approximately the same amount. It's hard to see that. So it shouldn't be sticking out of the plastic at all. It should be just down like a millimeter-ish, which it is. So I'm gonna go with that. The next one, we'll adjust this one. A little tougher. I suppose it would have been easier to just, which it might do. I'm going to push these out. This one's a little tighter than the other one. I don't know if I can. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna push one of these all the way out. Wow. Oh, that's the flanged end. I'm looking at the wrong end. All right, so let's push this one. There we go. All right. This one is about 1 mm short of the end. That one's already to the end. So that looks good. The angle on these, this one needs to be adjusted. I'm going to push this one out of the barrel and then twist it a little bit and get the balls aligned. Read the instructions. Yeah, that looks good. All right. There we go. That looks good. All right. So we have that piece. So there they are, sitting at the end. You can see the gap. You can see the gap between them. There you go. There's a gap in there. All right. The tensioner assembly is this thing here. This has a step in here for a newer version of the part. They added a screw and a nut for a tension adjustment, and they said if it's not on your part, just skip along. So I will do that. The next thing is the X-end idler, which is this. We're going to add the wheel into this channel. We're going to add this wheel in there. It says, let's see, insert the bearing, secure it in place with the screw, place your finger on the bearing and ensure that it will rotate freely. So I have the screw. Kind of get that just set there. Well, I'm not. So I'm putting that. It goes in there like that. Get the screw in there. That's overhead. I got the screw there. Run this in. See if we can get the thread to catch now. There it goes. All right. See if this nut draws in anymore. I don't think it does. Nope, that's it. So I'm going to loosen this back up. Alright, that spins freely in there. Alright, we're going to do the rods. It says, so there's 4 rods remaining. We used 2 in the previous video, and those were the middle length rods. Now we're at the, we have short ones and we have long ones, and it says to take the long ones. So we found those in our tube. We have those. And it says we're going to need to put our linear bearings on these. So I have 3 more linear bearings here. I did not open these. So it says put 2 on one of the rods and 1 on one of the other rods. So basically, when you put these on, you don't want to force them. You don't want to pop the balls. There's little tiny ball bearings in here. If you do this at an angle or something, or you do it with too much force, you'll literally push balls out of there, and you don't want to ruin the bearing. So this goes on pretty without any force. So that was nice. Let's do the next one. That went right on, so those had no issues. The third one on this rod. Yeah, different angle. There we go. It's right on there. So That's those. All right, it says put these all together. So we're going to lay our parts out like they are in the picture. I have this assembly here. I have this assembly is, yes, that is the proper direction. So down here. And then I guess we're going to press the rods into the ends. The double rods on top, single rods on the bottom. So we assemble. So you can see that. So that goes on there. We're going to do one end first. Put that end in there. So that's in. And then we're going to do this far end. There we go. So there's the rod right there, all assembled. So it says in a picture to look through, there's a little window port. There's a little port on here, right here where my finger is, right there. So if the rod didn't go in all the way, and I'll pull it out just a little bit so you can kind of see. So there's a gap. You can see the rod. There's a gap in the rod there. Get the angle right. A little bit of gap, and they said press it all the way in like that. So all those little portholes should have those flush. So don't leave any of them not flush. You can kind of feel it. There's enough play in there. So there is that. Next, the motor. So let's move this backward a little bit. So I have a motor. This is the, it's actually labeled like all the motors, X-axis here. So I have the focus way on the tabletop, but so it says X-axis. Excuse my cough. All right. It says grab the motor and pulley, and that's the little pulley. It's got the teeth for the belt on there, and that just goes onto there. Make sure you're using the right motor. It says well, I guess orientation doesn't matter yet. So it says this, however we're using it, is get the flat of the motor. You can see there's a flat bevel on the motor there. Make sure that's pointing up, and then one of these two screws have to match up with the flat on there, because we're going to screw that down, and that screw is going to be what keeps that stays on the flat and keeps this from ever turning during operation. So it says put it on there. It says to leave a gap. It says don't press the pulley against the motor. Leave a gap so the pulley can rotate freely. They're showing like 2 millimeters maybe on this, so I'm just going to go with that. The last motor, it showed it was a lot closer, just not touching. So actually, the other thing about looking at pictures is you realize you just put it on backwards. So there. This one, most motors that I've seen, they have it's mounted like this. So your securing screws are close to the motor, and then the belt's out here. In this case, and that's why I did that. In this case, I noticed in the picture that it's reversed like this, and that's perfectly okay. It just depends on what the machine is, right? So just want to make sure I'm doing this right. So that looks about what it looks like in the picture to me. So I have it on the flat, the screw on the flat side. Now I can adjust this and screw it down. I'm going to just verify that it's really perpendicular. Just tighten this down. Tighten the other screw. Both screws will help keep this really not moving over time while it's in your printer. So It says, so those are snug. It says don't tighten yet because we're going to do probably some adjustment later. So it's on there. It's not going to come off, but I didn't really crank it. So we'll go to the next step. All right, it says, so we're going to mount the motor on this thing we just threw together. So I have 3 screws right here. Probably come down a little bit. There we go. So I have my 3 screws. I have the motor assembly, or the carriage assembly here. And it says to have the motor pointing up. Just keep adjusting my camera, right? All right. Point the motor up. It shows the wires coming out this end. So the picture, matching the picture, the wire assembly is coming away from the thing in that direction. So I'm going to go with that. So that kind of goes there. Try to get you more light. Yeah, the black filament doesn't reflect light at all. It's like one of those magic nano filaments you read about in the news. All right. I'm just kidding. It's not. It's just plastic. So let's get this started. So we're throwing these screws in here. We're going to line them up with the motor screws. I'm going to get this one turned in, the second one. Third one. I'm going to adjust the focus real quick since I moved the camera. There we go. Sorry about that. That's a lot better, isn't it? It's newfangled technology. All right. There we go. All right. Let's see. Does it say to tighten them? Yes, it does. So this all looks the way it is in the picture. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to snug these just a little bit more each so that everybody had a chance to settle where they want to go without torquing anything. And then now I'm going to kind of crank them a good turn. Yeah, that feels good. Feels good. Oops. That feels good. That was maybe, after they were secure, it was a little less than 1 whole turn to get these to the tension. Maybe 3/4 of a turn-ish. Alright, that step is done. We're almost done with this, actually. Alright, now we are going to add the moving part of the carriage under these 3 things. It says I need this carriage assembly thing. I need this piece. I need a couple of zip ties. It needs 4 square nuts, which I actually already inserted in here. You can see those silver things in there. They're square nuts that go into little slots in there, and there's I believe there was 5 of them. Where are they? There's 1 for each hole. Yeah, there's 1 in the middle, and then there's 2 hidden. Yeah, they cleverly hid these too. And then there's 2 right there at the end. You can see there, you can see there, and then there's 1 there. So kind of nice. All right. It says insert nuts in the traps, which I did before we started the video. Insert zip ties in the slots as shown in the last picture. So I need to arrange this thing so I have it like that. And so these zip ties, it says to insert the zip ties into here. These little slots right here are for zip ties, and I guess they channel through. It's kind of cool. The cool thing about it is if this was an injection molded part, they wouldn't be able to just have a blind hole that captures the zip tie. So a nice thing about 3D printing is you can print a blind hole in a piece like that. Yeah, I'm still getting over a cold. I'm at that part where my throat just does a weird coffee thing every 10 minutes for no reason. Alright, so in the second hole. Alright, so I've done those according to the picture. Alright, insert the zip ties. Alright. It says now prepare the x-axis, align the bearings in the middle, and ensure the label on the x-axis motor is facing up. Alright, so it says to do that. Yep, I'm not on camera over here. So. Right, it says to put these two together. Then center that one. And we're going to bring in so, oh, and then it says, okay, it says, since we mounted the motor in the previous one, it says, flip this unit over, and then here's my motor. It says, just make sure the label is facing up, which is, everything else is down, so there you go. The label's right here, so that when I put this piece on, because this piece goes underneath like this, so that's going to be kind of correct. Let's put that out there. There we go. So I kind of got this all positioned where the pictures indicate. They'll say lift. It says lift up one side of the x-axis and slide in the x carriage. Align the bearings and tighten the zip ties. So we've slid that underneath there, and then we're lifting up the carriage into here, and then we're just gonna make sure it's kind of centered in there. I don't think it pops in at all. Does it? Nope. It just rests in there. So now we're just gonna put the zip ties on here, and that's what holds it on there. Yep, so slide it in, and then do your zip ties. Where does it want the ends of my zip ties? It wants them here at the top. So it wants them up on this side. So well, it's kind of held in there. So I kind of want these properly tight. Scoot it on me. All right. Tighten these a little bit with my pliers. I got like one extra click out of the zip tie there, so I just want it really not loose. Second zip tie. There we go, nice and snug. And I'm doing this right. Yep, and do that, and then we have the nippers. I'm nipping off these flush. So there, that's on there. That is together. It says your x-axis is done. So that is another step of this printer that's all done. So in a future step, we'll be adding this onto the printer. So let me, I'm going to gather myself, and I'll probably stream another step in about 10 minutes if you're watching live. Otherwise, go onto the YouTube page and click the next chapter. So thanks for, I'll leave that there. Thanks for viewing. Check out the next video. We'll see ya. And that was Sarah saying hello. She is Gravity Road on YouTube for people just viewing in. And she makes robots, so you should check that out too. Thanks, and see ya.